I can remember years ago, and a lot of years ago, when I probably, if I considered myself politically motivated at all, maybe back in university days, I probably liked to imagine myself as having a green agenda, which I understood to mean loving the planet and taking care of it, and not making a mess. Take only photos, leave only footprints, all that kind of idea. I was an archaeology student at university, and I was a field working archaeologist for a few years after. So I was out in the wilds, and appreciating the natural world was part of it. Was part of the pleasure, part of the joy of the subject was the opportunity to be out in nature. We were digging holes right enough, but we always did our best and took care to put it all back together again when we were finished. And to relay the carefully cut turf, so that in a few months after our presence there should have been little trace of us having passed that way. So I was green minded. I think all young people aren't they? I think there's something innate in children and in people through their teens and in the first part of life where you care about the environment. I think it's a natural instinct. But more recently, I've been thinking about the green agenda that's being foisted upon us, that manifests itself in the green levy on fuel bills and energy bills. That's in this time of cost of lockdown crisis, where people are starting to feel real financial pain, and the green levy on energy bills is only adding to that suffering. The move away from the much maligned fossil fuels, gas, coal, oil, to renewables, so-called wind and solar. Agenda 2030, which is really just the idiot child of Agenda 21, which was an earlier iteration of the same objective, in the main, the unelected cabals that protest that they know best about how we the peasants should live. And they're trying to force us into this world, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not about going green. It's about going without. It's about grooming the world's population, and especially the populations of the developed West, to live meaner, colder, hungrier, smaller lives. That's what Agenda 2030 boils down to. And to add insult to injury, to rub salt into the wounds, the priestly class that preaches Agenda 2030 are doing so from their private jets as they flit around the planet, coming together in Davos and wherever else they like to foregather, so that they can lecture we the proles about what we should do without, while they continue to live their high protein, high altitude, mile high lives. And I'm infuriated by it. The candidates for the leadership of the Tory party are at it as well. At this moment in time, it's down to Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss. I don't care which one of them wins. I think it's irrelevant which one of them comes to the fore. I don't believe, as I've said before, I don't believe meaningful decisions are made in Westminster. I think what we get from Westminster is a script delivered by bad actors, written elsewhere. So that we're watching a puppet show. Punch and Judy. It's meaningless. Who takes that top job? But there they are. All of the candidates, before and after whatever stage of the contest we're actually at by the time you listen to this, some of them make mealy-mouthed qualification around the green levy, and they make they offer platitudes about how we the people and businesses, have to be given a soft landing as far as possible as the green agenda goes ahead. But none of them are talking about undoing it. So it's just more of the same nonsense that will destroy communities, destroy our society, and ultimately destroy lives. As far as I'm concerned, the green agenda needs to be gone in its present iteration. It's not green anyway. It's hiding behind a cloak of green. Renewable energy. We've been sold a pup there. Wind farms and solar farms. Where to begin? Where to begin in contemplating the hypocrisy of all of that? Sites for wind farms, sites for solar farms, take your pick, but they've all to be cleared of all life. Before anything is built, before they start pouring the concrete, the great mass cubes of concrete that will hold the turbines upright, or before they set the acres of solar panels in place, the sites are cleared of all life. Notionally, the creatures that are taken from their burrows or their nests are relocated elsewhere, but unpublicized research indicates that most of that relocated life dies, wherever it's been put down. So there's sterility is left behind in any case. The turbines, when they're in action, harvest millions of birds that fly into them and through them. Solar farms are equally as hostile to life. Wind turbines are hugely demanding of energy and resources to make them in the first place. When they're in place, they're filled with gallons of oils and other lubricants that are the product of fossil fuels by any other name. Solar panels are filthy to make. They use coal in their production process and other fossil fuels besides. And to cut a long story short, without subsidy, without massive subsidy bribes, basically from nation states, no private company would go near the making of either. They just wouldn't. There would not be profit in it if they were just forced to operate in the open market. None of them would bother because the returns would be so compromised by the expense and the inconvenience and all the rest of it. And if you look around, you'll see images online of wind turbine blades come to the end of their life. After 20 years or so, there's nothing can be done with them because of what they're made of. They can't be recycled. So the wind turbines are disassembled and buried. They just become the stuff of yet more colossal landfill. Similarly with solar panels, which come to the end of their natural lives, and there's nothing can be done with them. And then there are images too of the mining that goes on for the necessary rare earth minerals upon which all of these renewable technologies depend. Lithium for car batteries and batteries for all of these rechargeables. Cobalt, these rare earth minerals and others besides require the kind of invasive strip mining and damage to environments which are equal to or greater than the worst excesses of anything that was done to extract any fossil fuels. The damage that is being contemplated in the name of a green agenda. It's hypocrisy of an obscene level. And then you get beyond the renewables, and you consider what the green lobby stand by and watch, or their cheerleaders profit from. Plastic in the oceans. Look at the images of plastic in the oceans. There used to be campaigns about removing plastic from the ocean, as if that was even possible, because as the plastic breaks down in the ocean, it becomes microplastic, which there's nothing you can do about. It's ingested by fish and other marine life that we then eat, so that all of us walking around today are partly made of ingested plastic. There's a measurable quantity of microplastic in all of our bodies. The whole thing, the very notion that any of this is clean and green and respects the environment is farcical. And it was all cast into the hypocrisy of it was brutally exposed during COVID. The masks, the millions, billions, maybe it's even trillions of plasticized masks that people were encouraged to wear and that were then discarded, so that there are billions of them in landfills, billions of them in the ocean. They'll be there forever. They'll take centuries to break down. And as they break down, they too will be ingested by marine life. They will choke the life out of seabirds and other marine life. And no one seems to care about that. All the plastics of the PCR tests and the lateral flow tests and the personal protective equipment, it's all plastic, all just being mass produced at huge profit and then dumped. Where was the green lobby then to lament the mass production of all that shite that ended up in the oceans and that will be there for centuries to come? And when you get to, we're all encouraged to recycle, separating our plastic and our cardboard and our tin cans and all the rest of it. 90% of plastic that we use on a daily basis cannot be recycled. 90% of it, okay? And the rest that can be recycled, it too breaks down into microplastics. The 10 biggest recycling companies in the world make £60 billion worth of profit each year. The plastics industry that generates this stuff in the first place is worth $800 billion a year. It's about profit. It's about profit. If we really cared about the planet, it wouldn't be this way. We in the UK are the world's 4th biggest producer of plastic waste per head of population. And 50% of that, 50% of the plastic that we produce, which is to say 688,000 tonnes a year, is shipped to Turkey and Malaysia, where it piles up in landfills in that part of the world, or it's burned. Okay, it's burned, putting pollutants into the atmosphere. And the UK government counts all of that as recycled. When you see the figures for the quantities of plastics that we produce that are recycled, it includes the 688,000 tonnes that gets shipped out to get buried or burned elsewhere. So we're just offshoring our own filth. And yet we're being told that this is all under the auspices of a green agenda, Agenda 2030. What troubles me most of all, I think, is ours is a culture of waste. It's just waste. We've evolved into a species that we just consume and waste. We make, or have made for us, out of sight and out of mind, cheap clothes that are worn once and then discarded. Everything's got built-in obsolescence. So computers and phones, all of it, everything, all these units are made in the expectation that after a year or so they'll just be scrapped and replaced with more. Every day, millions of tons of food, edible food, get bulldozed into landfills. And that all of that food is wrapped in plastic, wrapped in cellophane, water moved in plastic bottles. And this is in a Western world dominated by a green agenda. We're not. We've become filthy creatures. What kind of mindset is that encourages generations of people to just leave their own mess behind them and walk away from it? The whole thing is a sham and a farce and an exercise in hubris and hypocrisy. And now we're being handed this so-called green agenda, and there's nothing green about it. As far as I'm concerned, it's the antithesis of care for the world, love of nature. It's wasteful. It's wasteful what we're being offered. There's nothing in the renewables. There's nothing in mass consumerism. There's nothing in mass consumption. There's nothing in shoveling fresh food into landfills. There's nothing about that. The harvesting of lithium, the harvesting of cobalt and the rest. And the rest of it, copper. You need something like 18 tonnes of copper per megawatt of electricity that's carried from wind turbines. Get any idea how much copper that is? If you want to replace all of the coal-fired, all of the oil-fired, all of the nuclear power stations with wind, the electric cables that have to come from that apparatus, it is going to devour the world's rare minerals and rare metals. We should be teaching children about nature. We should be teaching children how how to care for the soil, actually how to care for the soil, how to maintain its fertility. We should be teaching children how to grow food. We should be teaching them that food should be grown locally and organically, not in that suicidally stupid way that was attempted in Sri Lanka. But there are those who know how to grow organically, so that people should be focused on living locally, eating locally, growing food, raising animals, slaughtering them locally, and living upon the food that is possible, in the immediate hinterland of where people live. But as it turns out, in a few generations, we have been utterly divorced from the land. We've been utterly divorced from our food, so that we've lost the power to make our own food. We have been uneducated. We have been disabled and made incapable, so that we're dependent. Henry Kissinger said, control the food and you control the people. Control the energy and you control whole continents. Control the money and you control the world. And that's what's coming. That's what's here. It's all about control. Where are we now? Now we're looking at spiking costs of energy, of food. This winter, there's going to be catastrophic pain for people because a situation has been engineered whereby they won't be able to heat their homes and they won't be able to feed their families. They're forcing people into an increasingly dependent reality, dependent upon the state, divorced from the land, divorced from all the means to feed and take care of themselves, as used to be the case for most people no more than 50, no more than 100 years ago. We were a very different animal, and it's happening right before our eyes, and we have to waken up and remember that the world, the land, the soil belongs to us, the people. Each and every one of us has a shared stake in planet Earth. And the green agenda that's being pushed, rammed down our throats at the moment is not green. It's anti-human, it's inhuman, it's anti-nature, and it doesn't have to be this way. There's a hot dog. Gracie, do you need a drink? Do you need a drink? It's nice and cool in here. Yeah. I have to get that big girl a cold towel and a drink.